Hello out to all you wonderful people. This is Andre, the Game Idea Guy. Thank you once again for lending me your time and your ear listening into another Gamer's Thoughts discussion. And we're going to be hitting on Ratchet Clank Rift Apart PC again. Okay. So, there have been videos posted everywhere of people playing this game with different configurations and setups, and it is amazing to see the discourse going back and forth between people and all the arguing that they do back and forth. Alright, so I will tell you straight up, running this game on a 5400 RPM hard drive is not a good idea. Anyone could have told you that, because it has the lowest read speeds. That's the big problem. That's the issue. Read speeds. That's the difference between the hard drive and the SSD. Now, a 7200 RPM hard drive is going to do you a little bit better, because that's 33% faster than the 5400. But guess what would do even better and would still be a stable format? Anybody want to guess? 10,000 RPM. 10,000 RPM hard drive, which isn't quite going to reach SSD tier speeds, because I think the lowest for them is 500 megabytes per second. But a 10,000 RPM hard drive reads at around, I'd say, was it like 250 megabytes per second on average, depending on the quality. So, and that would be enough to have near what an SSD is going to do for Ratchet Clank Rift Apart on PC. And it just so happens to be that the hard drive that was in the PS4 was a 5400 RPM model hard drive, which is why when Digital Foundry posted that video, it chugged so much with the loading between rifts, because all the rifts are is loading screens. That's literally it. The rifts are loading screens. They are quick load screens. So, now, Bayonetta 2 did something very similar. Less data is being processed, so it was easier to perform the task. Ratchet Clank Rift Apart is processing more data. It's a heavier game, so it takes faster read speeds to achieve the same goal. And on top of that, the rifts, while the rifts are also load screens, they are also instances of the world. So they are different world instances being loaded up. So, best argument I can make, comparatively, is the medium on Xbox Series platforms versus trying to run it on an Xbox One natively. Xbox One natively, I believe it had the same type of hard drive as the PS4. So its read speeds are going to be low, which is going to make it chug when the two world instances are loaded up together, because you have two maps that are simultaneously loaded. That's what causes the problem. That's where chugging comes, because it's more data being processed, and at low read speeds, it takes a while to get through all that data. It's like being stuck in the airport at TSA and the line is like 40-50 people deep, and they are doing a thorough search on every individual person and their luggage as they go through. So the process that could be maybe half an hour becomes 2 hours. And I think that is a comparable analogy. If you had just the one TSA check-in for an airport, or I wouldn't say for an airport, but for your particular section of the airport, it's going to be much slower to get through. You open up more lanes, it'll be faster to get through. And an SSD is essentially combining what is stable storage along with what RAM does. So if the game was coded differently to accommodate for the low speed hard drive and just have a higher boosted amount of RAM, you could essentially get the same effect. It wouldn't be exactly the same. It wouldn't be 1-to-1, obviously, but you can get pretty close, as some people have shown off with their 7200 RPM hard drives and their high-spec PCs. So what I'm going to do here is going to be some educated guessing. Now, 5400 RPM hard drive playing Rift Apart on low-spec PC, between the rifts, loads around, I'd say, 4 to 5 seconds longer than what the PS5 does. Because the PS5 is almost instant. It takes like half a second to load it in. On a PC of high specs, takes about the same amount of time. It's a little bit off from the PS5. PS5 is still a little bit faster because it was designed around that. And PC it wasn't designed around because it's multi-spec. But on a high-spec machine, you're getting near the exact same result as the PS5. It's not exactly the same, but it's very, very close. I'd say it's probably within 1/10 of a second. But if you're a gamer, if you've been playing games long enough, you notice that difference. Now, on a 7200 RPM hard drive, it seems to take about 2 seconds to do the same process. And that's only 33% faster at its maximum point than the 5400 RPM hard drive. Which makes me believe that if you were to put in a 10,000 RPM hard drive, again running at 250 megabytes per second for read speeds, you're probably going to cut that down to about a second and a quarter for load times, because low speed SSDs seem to be able to get it done in about a second from the multiple videos I have seen where comparisons have been done. So if that's the case, to say it's impossible on a hard drive, it's misleading. And I know the argument coming right now, right behind that, is this is able to be done because of direct storage 1.2. Yes and no. It's easier because of direct storage 1.2. But again, if the game was coded with hard drives in mind, hard drives and RAM in mind, you could still do the same thing. So, just for example, if it was coded with the thought process of, okay, this is going to be on a hard drive and we need this amount of RAM. So say you need 16 to 24, say you need 24 gigabytes of RAM to get the same effect as what an SSD can do. You have that, and you have the read speeds of the 10,000 RPM hard drive. And the game knows, okay, if a hard drive is in, I immediately access RAM to do this process versus running it directly from the drive this way. You're not going to have too much of a difference. Direct storage just makes that process easier. Direct storage is kind of like the middleman. It does the job for you instead of you having to code it in manually. But if they coded it in manually, it'd probably be faster. That's it. That's the difference. That is the huge difference. Direct storage 1.2 cuts down on how much they have to code. It makes the process a little bit more efficient. And yes, it is a technology that highly benefits SSDs, but it's starting to benefit hard drives as well. I think I said something like this well over a year ago. But the point still stands, this was doable without an SSD. Either way. It's just easier now because of advancements in technology and advancements in software. So anyone can make the argument and say, well, no, Andre, it couldn't have been done. Yes, it could have. It just wouldn't have been as fast. Or they would have had to have less riffs on screen, less riffs already processed in order for it to be done. It's all about managing resources. This is literally it. It's about managing the resources of the game. Managing the resources of the game. Managing the tasks and processes that it does. And I swear I'm starting to talk more like a tech head now because I've been researching this shit back and forth because I'm like, that doesn't make sense to me. Why is that not possible? Why doesn't that work? And then when I come back and I do the research and I'm like, somebody's telling a lie or this is bullshit. And I'm not sitting here to try to, I'm not here to try to be like, oh, I'm better than anybody because I'm doing some fucking research. I'm researching because I'm curious. But when it comes down to it, like, I have logic and reason, and I know how to read things, and I can comprehend at least to a certain extent. I'm starting to think I should do that Tech for Dummies channel. But but really, honestly, this is a big fruitless argument. Because either way, the game is there. It can be played. Either you're going to play it with some chug or you're going to play it without it. But you're still getting the full game itself. You're still getting the full game experience. People can argue back and forth about it. They can say, oh, we need to apologize to Insomniac. Nope, I'm not apologizing to Insomniac for shit. Not at all. Because they said something that was provably untrue. Now, I unfortunately don't have the resources to spend the time showing all of this shit. Because if I did, I would. I would definitely take the time to show all this stuff off if I had the resources for it. But I do have at least enough logic and reasoning to say, okay, this can be done, and I see these things are done, and when you change out these parts, these are the results. So if you change this, and this is different by this amount, and this is what the results are, this theoretically is what would happen. That is what makes sense. And for anyone who's not scientific at all, that last little bit just sounded like complete gibberish. I know I know it did. I was a science geek as a kid, also a math geek, so it's a little bit easier for me to comprehend it. So it might sound like a foreign language to some people, but I understand the concepts, is what I'm saying. So with that in mind, I would really have loved to see what they could have done if they were able to fully program the game to have multiple ways to utilize its code. Because honestly, I don't think that they really reprogrammed the game so much as that they just used the newer tools that are available because it made it easier to transition the game over. Which, again, I'm not knocking them for doing that, but I would have really liked to have seen what like real hardcore coding work would have done, and if they could have made it one-to-one if they did that. Because either way, them going in and doing that type of level of coding benefits everyone in the long run. Hell, it might even benefit the PS5 version. Maybe there's something else that they could cut down on time and resources for in an update if they did that. But I mean, again, it's not like the game was in bad shape in the first place. It's just one of those things where I'm kind of curious to see what could happen, and I have a feeling like there's some hacker out there that's probably going to do it at some point in time. And then we'll see how it actually changes. Like I've said before, there's the channel with the guy that's redoing Super Mario 64 from it being an early life 64 game to a late life 64 game, and he's made drastic improvements with just changing out little bits of code. And that's the type of thing I would love to see somebody do with this particular game to see what changes. And I know it would take them a lot more time to work on that game if they were doing that. It wouldn't be out right now. It would probably not be out until next year. For them to have like the short turnaround that they do for these games, they're really not changing much of the code. For anybody that's out there thinking that they're really not changing much of the code if they're having this short of a turnaround. Just keep that in mind. Otherwise, I'm not dragging this on too much more. If anybody's really got anything they'd like to add, or they have a counterpoint to what I'm saying, please, I am open to it. I like the discussion, as long as we keep it respectful. But otherwise, thank you guys very much for listening in. Keep your eyes and ears out for more stuff from me, and until the next time, enjoy your games. Peace out, everybody. Thank you once again. This is Andre the Game Idea Guy, and if you would like to support my efforts in creating content, please look up my book that is currently on Amazon for purchase. That is The Game Idea Guy Presents Gaming Word Search Volume 1. I am currently working on Volume 2, and it would be highly appreciated. That way you could get something for you supporting me. Again, thank you very much. Peace out.